Well,
With my thumbs up. Awesome.
I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Ms. Heather Vickery. She is a global leader and success coach that helps people leverage their fears into intentional bravery. She's a celebrated public speaker. Heather inspires audiences all over to support them with the tools they need to live empowered, bold, joy-filled, and successful lives. She's the host of the podcast, The Brave Piles, and the author of a brand new book that just released called F Fearless, Making the Brave Leap. Heather's presentation today is titled Leveraging Your Fears. Welcome, Heather.
Hi, everybody. I do not know what is happening with the tech gremlins. I am trying to troubleshoot them. I keep freezing. I'm so sorry for Steve and Olivia. I'm happy to be here with all of you. I'm going to try switching to a landline and maybe that will help. I can't promise anything. The landline wasn't working earlier. So if you lose me, I'll be right back. I promise. But I'm really excited to be here with everybody. So don't go. Don't leave. Just
Hey, Heather, this might be your, we know that you have a celebrated podcast and audio only. If you leave your video off, that might help with the streaming while you get the other pieces figured out.
It does. It probably does. You know, the audio. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't get kicked out. That's good. I switched it over to a landline and hopefully that will solve our problem, but I can't promise anything. Hello. Oh my goodness. What a crazy way to start off a really fun adventure together. How's the summit been going so far? Are you all feeling your heart song? Are you feeling connected? Yeah, I love that. And I can, of course, there are some faces. Let's see. Irma's face is there. And I think Delisa's face is there. I love to see faces on things like this. Yes, I am here to talk about leveraging your fears. So let's just talk for 1 second about fear. We're told it's bad, right? Oh, don't be scared. Don't be afraid. Or we're told to be so afraid we should never try anything, right? Oh gosh, as little kids on the park, don't jump off of that. You're gonna get hurt. Don't do that. That's scary, right? So we're either told, don't be afraid, be fearless, or don't do anything because you might get hurt. Be really afraid. The messages they're confusing, they're mixed up. And the fact of the matter is, we do feel fear. We experience fear on a regular basis. It's a natural, normal human emotion. And also, we have to sometimes do things that are fearful and scary to learn, to grow, to expand, to try, right? I can remember as when my children were very small and they first started to want to climb up the slide. Now, slides are for sliding down, right? We know the rules. We know how we're supposed to move through things. Like, no, you climb up the ladder and down the slide. And they wanted to climb up the slide. And society told me to tell them, no, we can't do that. You're going to get hurt. Somebody's going to try to slide down or you're going to fall. You're going to hit your face. You do all these things. And then I learned that it's really good for their dexterity to climb up the slide, right? It teaches them to be clever and figure out a new way and their new muscles in their body. And I kind of feel like with life right now, we're all trying to climb up the slide. And we need to sort of take the fear of that. Like, we're climbing up. What if somebody else wants to come down? How do we get out of the way? And how do we make sure we don't face plant with, you know what is at the top of that slide? I want to get there, right? I want to get to the top. So we do that by embracing our fears and choosing bravely, right? To climb up the slide is brave. It doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you're making a brave choice. And I wrote this book. Olivia's like, you're going to make me say the title of this book. This is the book, Steve. Nobody, this crowd doesn't like my F word, but I like my F word and I'm proud of it. So that's okay. The reason that I picked that title is to grab everyone's attention, right? I want you to ditch the concept that you are supposed to be fearless in order to be successful or to be a great leader or to be happy, that you're not supposed to feel a natural human emotion. But at the same time, I do want you to make brave choices. And it's my favorite thing about fear is the only thing that enables us to make brave choices. And so here's what's happened for all of us when we choose bravely, with thought and with intention, with foresight and planning. We start to choose bigger. We go for bigger things. We take bigger risks, and we have bigger rewards and bigger payoffs. And those things are exciting. And my favorite part of all of it is, and Steve has heard me say this before, but I love to say it, it's contagious. And Steve is a treasured member of my Brave on Purpose community. And I know, Steve, that you have seen firsthand, like when we watch folks step up into their bravery, do things that feel a little bit out of their comfort zone, a little scary, it's inspiring, right? We go for bigger things. And I love that. And I'm frozen again, so go figure. I think the trick is I unstop my video and then I restart my video. So I'll just keep doing that and we'll get
working.
I promise. And so I have a method for embracing our fears and making brave choices. It is a creative and strategic approach to problem solving, dreaming, designing, and building a life that you actually love. And it is what I talk about in this book, but it is, it's not a book where I talk at you. I don't know. I think Steve has read it, at least part of it. So I don't know if anybody else has. It's a lot of fun. There are a lot of curse words. You should know that before you go into it. It's a lot of fun. And the Brave method is super approachable, folks. So I just want to share it with you today. And then maybe if you are willing to unmute yourself or show your beautiful faces, you can ask some questions and we can do some real life chatting. I don't do presentations like a lot of other people in slideshows because it doesn't feel fun for me. And I would rather talk to all of you and engage with all of you. So what does the Brave method stand for? Brave is an acronym. It stands for boundaries, what I call the 3 R's: reassessment, reframing, and resilience; action and accountability; vulnerability, which is a hot button; and then expand and empower. And those first 4 steps are super interchangeable. You're going to take the B, the R, the A, and the V, and you're going to use them when and how you need them. And I'm going to tell you what they are here in just a minute. But the 5th one, expand and empower, that's your reward. That's your payoff. When you choose bravely and when you do those first 4 things, you expand and empower. And I'm going to actually flip the whole acronym on its head and talk about expand and empower first, because I want you all to know deep down in your soul, we're going to talk about your soul song, your heart song, is that you are the only one that can expand and empower you. These are gifts that you give yourself, and you give them to yourself when you show up, when you say yes, when you say no, when you set boundaries, when you manage clear expectations, you communicate well, when you do things that bring you joy, when you take care of yourself, when you have self-compassion and self-love, when you show up for you, you expand and empower yourself. So I struggle with the people, especially in the self-help world, in the entrepreneur world, who say, I empower people to X, because I call BS on it, because they don't empower you. They may be wonderful. They may mentor you and guide you and teach you, and they may be amazing, and your life may never be the same again after knowing them, but they don't empower you. You do that on your own. So own that, folks, and allow that to feel good and fill your soul up and really connect you with what's happening to the people around you. And so everything I'm here to share with you today, and I think everything you're learning in this incredible summit, is all for that result, for you to expand and empower yourself, to step up and into yourself. Yes, Steve, powered from the inside. You're in charge of that. No one can do that for you. But making brave choices, I call it making the brave leap, is one really powerful way to do that. And so I don't know how many of you are type A's. I am one of those strange people that's both super creative and also very type A. So I'm woo-woo. I love all the woo. I love all the spirituality stuff. I'm here for it all the time, but I'm also very structured and routined and systemed. And I like to know what's happening, and I want to give me a plan, and I'm going to execute the plan. So I really tried to create this method in a way that would connect with wherever you are on that spectrum. Steve, I know you're my person. I know, Steve, we're alike. We're so alike. And so we start with boundaries. And I would venture to say to you that boundaries are your key to guilt-free freedom. And almost any moments of tension, stress, discomfort, anxiety in your life, if you're there, hi, Marcy, if you feel those things, sit and pause for a minute and think about what is one thing that you could do, what is one boundary that you could set that would put you more in a position of power in a situation. I venture to say that there is always at least one thing that we can do to create change, to take something in a new direction, to have a little more control or empowerment of a situation, even if the one thing that we do is change our mindset about the way we think or feel about it, right? But let's give some real world examples. Let's say you're a creative and you're pitching somebody. One way to set a boundary is to say at the very end, I'm going to reach back out in a week and check in and see how this is feeling, right? All of a sudden, then the ball's in your court. Instead of waiting to hear back from them, and you don't want to respond or you don't want to reach out because you don't want to be needy, or what if they don't want to hear from you? You've already told them up front, I'm going to reach back out. They may not respond, but you still know that you have that to hold on to. That's just one little thing. I love boundaries. They are my favorite. I have some boundaries where I do not work after 6 p.m. unless it's a really special occasion. Why? Because my brain is fried by after 6 p.m. You're not going to get the best version of me. And also, if you follow me on social media and you've seen me post before 9 a.m. and it's full of typos, it's because I also shouldn't be working before 9 a.m. I do that, and then people laugh at me and they'll go, what did you just ask somebody? I have a book launch party tonight for this wonderful book, and I'm excited. And I reached out to a neighbor who's also a friend who I know has the book. And I thought I said to her, hey, are you coming by tonight? But what I said was, is Ron coming by tonight? She said, who's Ron? I said, you're Ron, right? Okay. So we got to be able to laugh at ourselves and have some fun. Boundaries are amazing. I don't take my phone with me when I take my kids to the park. Setting office hours, clearly communicating them, putting out an office on your email. Set boundaries with yourself. Decide, I want this thing. I'm going to commit to these things. I'm going to set them in my schedule. I'm going to follow through on them. Those are boundaries for yourself. So I'd love to hear from anyone in the crowd, just a couple of areas that are maybe pain points for you that we could just chat and throw around maybe a potential boundary you could set that could give you a little more control, a little more energy in owning your responsibility in the situation, because we can't manage or control anyone else, right? We know that. We learned that really when we were little, but fully, as adults or young adults or in college, we were like, I can't manage anybody but me. So we are only going to work on ourselves here. Does anybody have a pain point, a pressure point that they would like? Yes, Steve, please.
Your talk about boundaries. One, I love that you stop your day at 6 o'clock. I do too, generally, obviously with the...
There's an exception to every boundary.
But it makes such a huge difference. And I've told both Irma and Olivia, when it's rolling around 8 o'clock and it's my time to present, I might be saying, are you coming to the party we're on when there's no Ron in the room? But
You might think Ron's going to be there. We'll just assume Ron's there.
There we go. We're manifesting Ron. But the thought that I had is, what are my boundaries around money? And especially when money can be such a hot topic, both in good ways, kind of like fear. It's
yes.
We have so many. One of the books that I want to write in the future is Conversations with Money, just because we have so many crazy conversations with money. But how do we establish those boundaries, and what are the first steps? And you those of you who don't know, I was a corporate accountant for years. And so, I'm pretty handy with crunching the numbers and so forth. But we never addressed the emotional side of it. There was we don't talk about that here in this place. Let's just deal with the numbers and forget about, the fact that you're a human being, which is one of the reasons I'm no longer a corporate accountant. But how do we get started in that?
I love that you asked that question. And I've never in all these years had anybody ask me about that as it relates to money. And it's a great opportunity for me to say that all of these, I have one rule and only one rule. Steve, do you know my rule? Have you heard my rule?
I don't know that I know your rule. I can't say it off the top of my mind anyway.
You would know it. You will remember it. There are no rules.
Okay, got it.
There are no rules, right? You're going to build your beautiful life on your terms, the way that best fit you. And so when we talk about money, I want to remind you that it has to come back to what your core values are, what your needs are, what your family's needs are. You have to write the rules. So the first thing I would say is let's start to think about what's important about money to you, right? And you don't have to answer that question. It's for everyone. What obviously we need money. Money isn't bad. I would say lots of folks have all sorts of money stories, and there are some great books out. A Pocket Full of Money. Jen Sincero's You're a Badass at Making Money is a great one. And I actually love Amanda Francis's Rich as F, Rich AF. She spells the whole word out too. It's a very different approach, but I love it. And a lot of those talk about your energy around money, right? And so how do you want to feel about it? So if you have one of those folks, any of you, one of those people who have a history of negative attachments to the concept of money, and a lot of people do, first, you're going to want to work towards getting rid of your scarcity mindset. And that's a really important thing to do. So you're going to figure out what's important to you. What do you want money for other than basic survival, right? We know we need money to pay our bills. We know we need money to buy our clothes. We know we need money for those kinds of things. Money is not an enemy, but I believe that money is a byproduct of service. And so I give, and that is from an abundance standpoint. So for me, my boundaries around money are, if I know somebody who is fundraising, I say yes. Pretty small increments. So for example, Facebook is a great example. At least it used to be. People are not doing it so much now. It's really fascinating, but they used to do those birthday fundraisers. And I would, unless the organization competes with my moral values, I donate $5 to everyone that says yes. And I think when I did my taxes last year was like $3,000 worth of donations at the end of the year in $5 increments, right? But I say yes because I want to say yes, because I believe in giving to receive. I think what we put out is what comes back in, but everyone has to decide that for themselves. And I know that for some people, $5 is the difference in whether or not you feed your family. I get that. But then also, if let's just assume that we have enough to survive and thrive, and there's a little extra in the bank, and we want to talk about boundaries around it. You can put some very technical systems around it and decide for yourself what's going to work. I mean, as an accountant, you've probably got all sorts of tips. You're going to put 10% here, and you're going to put 20% there, and you're going to do this and that. And that works for some people, and it doesn't work for other people. I take 10% of my profit and I put it into a savings account, and then I reinvest. And I set a certain amount of money aside to invest in personal professional coaching and development and education, because I believe those things are important. So when it comes to that, just like anything else, you have to decide what is important to you and what your values are, and then find a way to make it work. And that's what we do with the Brave Method across the board. Is these are constructs for you to apply to what is important to you in a way that feels good and achievable. Does that help, Steve?
It does. In fact, not surprisingly, you're speaking my language. When one of the things that I decided after leaving corporate and not getting so caught up in the numbers, because one, I have a facility with numbers. I'm pretty good with them, and I've always been comfortable with them. But when you limit everything to a number, when you limit to, okay, well, I'm going to make $1 million, I'm going to whatever, you really lose the story. There's always a story behind the numbers. But if you just focus on the numbers without considering the story, the heart of the story, then your heart song is overcome by this number, this really rigid thing. And so when I'm thinking about how would I set boundaries around money for myself, one of the things that I'm coming to terms with myself right now, and I'm actually writing a book around it, is that money is energy, that, and that it's not just like, there's like kind of this mystical, what does that mean as energy? But like, if you look at your bank account right now, every single one of those dollars in your bank account came from somewhere else. There's a trail, there's a story that led to that place. Even if someone put all the money in there, someone did that. There's a story there, and there's that energy that moves that. And so how do I appreciate, how do I honor the energy that goes into the money in my life, and how do I use it in order to, just as Dawn shared in the last presentation, how do we create a legacy that makes a bigger difference? How do I live my life financially and otherwise such that my children and my grandchildren, and people who aren't even related to me are better off because of the way that I have related to money?
That's brave to me. It feels brave to look at it from that perspective. And there is energy attached to it, 100%. Honestly, all of this is about energy. And I don't necessarily mean from a woo standpoint. Let's talk about it from an astrophysics standpoint. Let's talk about it from, it really is. And we know that the energy we bring into a space is the energy we get back from that space. I do a lot of public speaking, and in person when I'm not frozen on Zoom from my studio. When I speak in public, and tonight when I show up at my book launch party, I wear high heels, which are less comfortable now after being quarantined for 2 years, but whatever. And I used to think that I wore heels because people liked me better. What I have learned is that I like me better. I show up more confident. I feel taller. I feel thinner. I feel more in control. I feel more powerful. And I bring that energy to the stage, and everyone feels that and they respond to that. So they were responding to me liking me better. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons that when money comes in for me, I give, because that feels like the energetic energy that I want to put out there in general. Right. And that is a brave choice for me. It's an intentionally brave choice for me. So I love that. And in an effort to get through all of the letters in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to move on. But I invite any of you, if you want to talk one-on-one about this, you want to go through, I really could use help with boundaries, or boundaries are one of those things that struggle with me, or anything else I talk about, send me an email at heather@vickeryandco.com. And I would we'll set up a 20-minute coffee chat, and I would be happy to go into detail and talk with any of you about any of this stuff. I really, I love being of service. It's my favorite thing about the work that I get to do. So boundaries, your key to guilt-free freedom. I guarantee you can set more. People are very quickly to wrap that up. Often people are afraid that it's going to make people mad. Other people aren't going to like me. They're going to get mad if I set boundaries. I promise you they're not. And if they do, it is simply because they want to take advantage of your time and your space, right? If somebody is really legitimately mad at you for setting a boundary, their motives are probably not great. Otherwise, they're going to go, oh, I didn't know that was important to you. Yes, thank you for letting me know, or I want to help you with that. Or maybe they'll say, that doesn't really work for me, but let's find a compromise, right? Like there are all sorts of things. I have a client, I write about her in the book, I do Brave Spotlights, who on our very first call, it actually wasn't even, she hadn't even hired me yet. It was our very first call, and she wanted to take one day of the week off because her husband worked in events and he worked weekends, evenings and weekends, and she didn't work evenings and weekends. And she said, but I'm afraid my clients are going to get mad, or I'm going to lose clients or whatever. And I said, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? And she said, well, the clients will leave. And I said, well, that would definitely suck. What's the best thing that could happen? She said, well, nobody will care and I could get a day off. And I said, is it worth trying? Is it worth a risk? Is it worth making that declaration and seeing what happens? Because we can always change our mind, right? We create things and we can create new things. So less than 24 hours later, I had a response from her. She had reached out to her clients and just simply said, hey, I want to let you know that I'm going to have Wednesdays off moving forward. I'll get you whatever you need by Tuesday. I'll be back in the office on Thursday. Let me know if you need anything. And do you know what every single one of her clients said to her? Every one of them said, thanks for letting us know. Right? Nobody said, well, if you're not working Wednesdays, I'm not hiring you anymore. Nobody said that. And if they did say that, then you have to go, do I want to work with that person? Because they kind of suck, right? Yeah. So just a little example. You can set boundaries in all sorts of different ways, and they are so impactful. The 3 R's, which is the R in the BRAVE method, reassessment, reframing, and resilience, are probably my favorite. They're the meat of the BRAVE method. And they are absolutely game-changing, folks. You're going somewhere. The question is, do you want to be in charge of where you're going? Or do you want the rest of the world to be in charge of where you're going? And if you want to be in charge, then please take the time to reassess, reframe, and be resilient. What do I mean by that? I want you to check in with yourself on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual level. I dig in all of the detail in the book. What do I mean by that? What are the different ways you can do that? Check in with yourself. What do you want? What do you want for your life? What do you want for your business? What do you want for your family? And are your choices moving you closer to that? Are you saying yes to everything and it's getting in your way? Are you saying no to everything and it's getting in your way? I'm reminded of one of my all-time favorite books, Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, who's this badass, amazing human who I adore. And she wrote a book because somebody said to her, you say no to everything. And she realized she was missing out on most of what she wanted in life because she wasn't saying yes and taking opportunity. And the fact of the matter is, we're always saying yes and we're always saying no, always at all times, right? So we want to be really clear with ourselves. If I say no to this, what am I saying yes to? If I say yes to speaking at the summit, I'm saying no to having that hour to do something else, right? Which thing is more important to me? What is the thing that I want to do with that hour, right? Make sure you know why you're making the choices that you're making. On a daily level, it can be more simple, like this is my small term goal for the day. These are the things that I want to do. They're going to make me feel good. I want to take care of myself. I want to go for a walk. I want to practice gratitude, whatever it is, right? And you can make sure that you are reassessing, am I making choices and decisions that are moving me in the right direction? Oh, and is that still the direction I want to go? Those come in a little bit later, usually at the quarterly or the annual level. Like, wait, this has always been my goal. I wanted to make $1 million. I wanted to have $1 million business and I knew I could do it. And I've been working towards $1 million business, but geez, Louise, the things I've had to do to reach that $1 million mark, I don't know that I want to do those things. My quality of life sucks right now. Maybe I'm okay with $500,000. I could do this instead of that, right? Know where you're going and reassess on a regular basis. Is this still what you want? Have you changed your mind? You get to do that. You get to change your mind. You get to change your plan. You get to change your path. But if you're not reassessing and reframing, then you're not in control. You don't know if your choices are taking you where you want them to take you or not. And I just can't stress that enough. I love the 3 R's. And resiliency, folks, number one key indicator proven by brilliant psychologist. My brain just broke. Angela Duckworth. Read Grit. If you haven't read Grit, read Grit. It's so good. It is not enough to have skill or talent alone. You have to have resiliency to be successful. And resiliency is a skill you can teach yourself. You can grow more resilient. There are all sorts of tips and tricks for doing that. But I would venture to say that you are far more resilient than you maybe are giving yourself credit for, because you're still here. You're showing up. You're empowering yourselves. You're doing the thing. And that's the truest sign of resiliency. You didn't just give up. You didn't just go, well, I'm going to be done now with life, right? So you have a lot of core strength and you can build up more and more resiliency. But that reassessing, that changing your mind, that saying yes, or saying no. And sometimes the things that we're doing are allowing ourselves to rest. That counts. That's brave. It takes a lot of guts to say, that's not what I'm going to do today. I'm not feeling well, or my mind isn't in it. My heart isn't in it. I'm going to clear the schedule and take a bath all day. There have been days in the last 6 months where I have absolutely done that. And then there are days where I powered out. I just produced a book where I work until my eyeballs feel like they're going to fall out of my head, because that's the choice I'm making to achieve a goal that's important to me. Resiliency only works if you're reassessing and you're reframing and you go, yes, I want more of that, or no, I want less of that. And then you're making those decisions. Anybody have thoughts or anything on the 3 R's, questions about the 3 R's before I move on to A? I've been trying not to look too much at all of the things. Okay.
I love what you just said, that resilience doesn't, I don't remember what your words were, but that resilience happens because we're reassessing and reframing. That we're not just like being gritty and doing, going through hell just because that's what we said we're going to do. We're being gritty because what we have what we've assessed and the frame that we've set for ourselves, it works with who we want to be and where we want to go.
Yes, that's right. I mean, there are all different sorts of resiliency, and some of us are survivors or living through things that are horrible and heartbreaking, and we survive those things. And yes, that makes you resilient. But there are a lot of people who don't think they're resilient because maybe they haven't had lots of challenge or lots of trauma, which is wonderful for them, but they somehow think they don't have that skill. But yes, you do. And you can sharpen it and you can train it. And then you make conscious, thoughtful, intentional decisions. I call them brave decisions. I call them everyday brave decisions. And we step back up in a new way, in a new space. And that is so super resilient. Yeah. Thanks, Steve. Okay. So we've done B and R. The next one is A, which is action and accountability. Nothing, my friends, nothing works unless you do. Nothing works unless you do, including your body. So sometimes the work you have to do for your body is to love it more, be kind to it. I have a good friend. This is really out of left field, but her body shape has shifted in the last couple of years, and she's been really hard on herself. And she's been practicing worshiping her belly. She's doing hard work to love her belly. And she asked her partner to worship her belly to help her get good with the way that felt. That's action. So we think about action as I've got a to-do list. I'm going to do all of these things. I'm going to make these sales calls. I'm going to write 100 pages today, whatever it is. That's all action. But my point is there are no rules. You get to create the rules. And so whatever it is that you most need to build and experience your most authentic, joy-filled life, do that. And we can't do that if we're not clearly aware of what we want, and then we don't ask for it. So action and accountability are about taking those boundaries, taking those 3 R's and going, now what will I do with it? Now I'm going to create something with this. I'm going to ask for what I need, and I'm going to ask for support. Just because you can do it all doesn't mean you should do it all. I really am a big fan of delegation. And if anybody here is looking to grow or scale a business, I can tell you 100% that you will not grow and scale to the degree that you want to if you think you can do all of the things on your own. It doesn't work. Get some help, get some support. And if you go, well, wait, I just started and I don't have any money for that, get creative, do a trade. Find somebody who wants what you have and you want what they have. There are all sorts of different ways to get started and to get support. If you are a homemaker, gosh, think about single parents or parents who don't have supportive partners or spouses. how stressful their life is because they feel like they've got to do it all on their own. And when I was going through, a huge personal transformation, a divorce, I came out of the closet. My speaking engagements were ramping up. I was starting a whole new business. I had no choice but to ask for help from my community and then to accept the help that was offered. And that felt really weird at first, but that's what led to this. That's what led to me being able to sit here with you and share this with you. My best takeaway from that was how loved I felt when I asked for support and people said yes, and they could give it back to me. And then when it was time and it circled around, I could give it back to them. That is my greatest gift. And that is the gift we can get and give when we ask for help. Think about how you feel when somebody says to you, you know what, I'll use a real life example. I went to Steve a month or so ago and I said, Steve, I've got this new book coming out and I could really use your help. How did you feel, Steve, when I made that request of you? Because that's really hard to do, folks. I want you to understand that I know, and I got really tired of asking. I felt like I was begging at one point. But as the receiver of that, Steve, how did you feel?
I was delighted.
Why were you delighted?
Well, one, as you know, we're good read buddies, and I love to see all the books you're reading, and I love reading all the books that I'm reading, and to see someone who is contributing to that treasure trove of knowledge that is found in books, I was just delighted. Plus, I just think you're awesome, and I love spending time with you. So,
thank you. I wasn't just fishing for compliments, although thank you. My heart feels full. What I wanted to share with you all was that point that people appreciate being asked to help and support you. And you have to trust them to set their own boundaries about whether or not they can. Don't decide for somebody else if they're too busy or that they're not going to be interested. Give them the chance to say yes or no, right? That's them managing themselves. All I want you to do is manage yourself, right? We can't control anybody else and we can't change anybody else. But when we change ourselves, we change the people around us. And when we ask for support and we receive graciously that support when people say yes, or when we are gracious when they say no, that's okay. There were people that I said, hey, can you help me with this? Can you do a lecture? And they said, in that time frame, I just can't. I have too much going on. Absolutely. I understand. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the book, right? What are we going to do? It's totally fine. But way more people said yes than said no. And so we have to love that. And then partnering that with accountability. How many of you have accountability partners or accountability relationships? Olivia didn't raise her hand. Do you not have an accountability partner?
I'm trying to find one. Or maybe I'm afraid because then it means like I really do have to be accountable.
Yeah, it's true. Accountability partners, if they're done right, they really do hold your feet to the fire. A good accountability partner listens as much as they talk. Right? They cheer you on. They're wonderful, but they also call you on your BS and you don't want to let them down, but it's game changing. So when you decide you actually are ready to do the things that you're maybe right now, you just admitted avoiding doing because that's scary and hard. And that's okay. That's super normal. Get yourself an accountability partner because it's game changing. And I have had a multitude of different types of accountability partners in my life. Olivia, I'm going to ask you to mute because I can hear myself feedback. Sorry. It's okay. I have had like sort of a mastermind accountability partner where we would meet every 3 months and we would talk big picture stuff, a big group of us. I think there were 4 of us, not that big, and we would do that and we had a great time. We would big picture plan. I have had a weekly accountability partner. We talk for an hour every week. It just turns into the best week, the best hour of my entire week. That relationship after about 3 years turned into a once a month talk because we no longer needed the accountability in the way that we'd had it before. And so we had to reassess, reframe, and then try it again, but we didn't want to lose one another. And one of my favorite accountability relationships ever was a wins accountability relationship. And I talk about this in the book. We met because we both did an online Instagram challenge where we were admitting our faults. We were admitting our failures. I failed epically at X today. And we were doing this challenge and it was really freeing. It felt great. I love celebrating failure because the quickest way to overcome a failure is a try, right? You try something else. And so I was great. But what I realized was that it was much easier for me to say all the things I did wrong than it was for me to say what I felt like I'd done right. And I met another woman in that challenge and we said, let's be wins accountability partners. So we spoke every Friday for 5 minutes and all we did. So we had to keep a list all week. It really required you to be accountable to yourself and to track it. What were the wins with no self-deprecation? So I love this example because it's a really dumb one, but how many of you posted on social media? Well, I was going to post every day on social media, but I didn't do that. But I did do 4 days. So we already feel shitty, right? We already feel bad because we didn't do the thing we're going to do. So we didn't do that. We were only allowed to say, I posted 4 times on social media this week. And then we would cheer each other, right? And we would keep track. We were on time for school 2 days this week. My kids actually told me they loved me this week, like whatever it is. Man, this client sent me this letter. I had an amazing group coaching session, whatever it is. And we would literally just share the thing and cheer each other on and move on with our day. And it was magical because it's more fun to share our wins and our celebrations with other people. It was a really special kind of accountability relationship. In my Intentionally Brave Entrepreneurs program, which is my 12-month membership program, I partner people with accountability partners because it is really important if you want to build something or transition something or grow something, that you have a person that is your person that you can give and take with to help you set those goalposts and keep you on task and keep you on track. So action and accountability, absolutely game changing. Nothing works unless you do. It would be great if we could just hold ourselves accountable all the time and follow through all the time. But we do not do that, right, Olivia? We don't. And I love you for being honest about that and admitting it because we're all in that space. I'm in that space all the time. Like, oh, if I ask for help on this, it means I actually have to do the work. Okay, let's do the work. So yes, so we've done B, R, A, and then here in the last minute, it's not the last one, but we started with the last one, is V, vulnerability. And as Brene Brown says, vulnerability is the birthplace of invention. Folks, it's probably the hardest thing to do, but it is one of the most impactful things you can ever do, is to show up as your own vulnerable, honest, authentic self. Now let's get something out of the way right away. Vulnerability and authenticity does not mean that you are supposed to perform surgery on yourself and cut yourself open and put all of your insides out for everybody to take bites of. Does not mean that. Right? You do not have to turn yourself inside out to live an authentic, vulnerable life. What it does mean, though, is that you are going to be true to yourself, that you're going to show up as you, whoever you are. I took my kids to see the Harry Styles concert a week ago on Wednesday. It was great fun. He helped somebody in the audience come out. It was spectacular. But when he first started, he came out and he did a song because that's what artists do. And then he greeted the crowd and he said, tonight, I invite you to be whoever you want to be. Whatever you have always most wanted to be, that's who I want you to be tonight. And that's what I mean by choosing to be vulnerable and authentic, because he was putting himself out there in that way to do that. And we do the same thing, but it's nice to get permission, isn't it? It's nice to know that you're surrounded by people who want to see you as you are on the inside. And we start to change where we show up. We start to change who we interact with. We start to change what we ask for and what we offer, if we're being honest. And the clients that I've worked with who've had the most growth with vulnerability and authenticity have discovered way higher sales because they're talking to people who are their people. They're talking directly to their clients who are valued and invested in what they bring to the table, instead of pretending like you're something that you're not. Honestly, people can tell, they can see through it very quickly, and it feels icky and it's sludging through our day. If you feel like you're going through your day sort of pulling yourself through quicksand, you might not be showing up as your most authentic self. You might not be asking for the support that you need. You might not be putting yourself out there in a way that is truly vulnerable. Vulnerability is so much about belonging. It's so much about belonging in a space and feeling welcomed and belonging to yourself, right? So it's important. I have to keep it in there because I don't think we can be truly brave and intentionally brave if we're not doing it from a place of vulnerability and authenticity. And remember, all of those things add up to equaling expansion and empowerment. You give that to yourself. Those are brave choices. And remember that when we choose bravely on purpose, we choose bigger, we win bigger, and it's contagious. And we want to lift everybody else up. So that is, I just did that really fast because we even started late. So hopefully, did we do okay? Did we get the message across? Yeah. Does anybody have any specific questions about any elements of the Brave method? Anything that I said they want to chat about? I'm here to chat. Got a couple more minutes.
Well, you had brought up something about getting creative, when you're not in a place where you have funds, to do certain things. So can you maybe help with setting up some boundaries for like what a barter agreement looks like or a collab or?
Yeah, that's a great question, Olivia. Do you want to mute? Sorry. I don't know why it doesn't do it when Steve's talking, but yes, the barter system, the trade system is alive and well in the United States and all across the globe. And I am a big fan of it. It helped me tremendously to get both of my businesses off the ground. But you do still want to be a professional. You still want to treat it as a professional. So when I do a barter or trade, I still do a full contract and I show what my full price would be. And then I zero it out and I show we're trading for this amount. And so you don't owe me money. I don't owe you money, but it makes sure that everybody at the table knows the value that's being put into the relationship. So still have those contacts, those contracts, be very, very clear about it. Where bartering and trading can get tricky is if we do not set very clear expectations. What exactly are you getting? What exactly are you giving? Because if you don't do that, then that leads to resentment and frustration. And I would be sure to revisit those trade and barter relationships, probably more regular than a regular paid client trade relationship, to make sure it's still working for everyone involved. And that we can clear any confusion or questions or grievances and hopefully all feel good and continue to move forward. Yeah. Marcy, I saw you showed us your face a minute ago. Did you have a question? Or not? Olivia, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did, because that's an area that I'm stepping into and wanting to still be a professional and, maybe that's a separate conversation I need to book with you then to how to set that up properly. And I think just also being daring is part of the bravery, right? Like daring to ask and daring to offer something.
Absolutely. It's gutsy, right? The brave ask is a gutsy feeling. And I don't know about you all, but I get a little hot in the neck. I'm like, oh, you want to temper it. Like you figure out, you want to sort of measure it out. I really got tired of asking by the end of my book launch. I'm like, I can't ask anymore, but it was hard but it was brave and the rewards were spectacular, and you can do it in a lot of different ways. But the thing is, Wayne Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It is true. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So yes, it's very, very brave, but if you are, I call it dreamscaping. If you are planning the life that you want and the business that you want, and you're really thoughtful about it and intentional about it, not just what it's going to look like, not about money per se, right? But how you want to feel, how you want to move around your day, what kinds of things you want available to you. You want to keep these certain hours, you want to travel. I dreamscape. I absolutely plan to have a home in Puerto Vallarta within the next few years. And I want to, when my kids are out of the house, which feels really far away, but it's not, I want to be able to live in Paris about 3 months out of the year. And like, these are crazy things. These are crazy off the chart goals, but I visualize them. I dream of them. And then I start to take intentional action, which includes the asking, Olivia, includes like, how can I build this? Who can I partner with? Who do I want to collaborate with that can put me in a position to be able to have those things that are important to me? And I'm intentionally building a business that I could do from Puerto Vallarta or Paris whenever I want, right? So we build the life, we have to dream the life in order to build it. I call that dreamscaping, and then make thoughtful, brave, intentional choices towards getting there. Yeah. Thank you. If any of you would like, I have a Brave Method 101 quick guide. So if you go to vickeryandco.com/guide, vickeryandco.com/guide, you can get the Brave Method 101 quick guide. And then if you want to chat more with me from that, I would love to do that. I invite you all into conversation. Thank you, Olivia.
Yes, all of Heather's info's in the chat, so you can feel free to save the chat.
Thank you, Heather. That was fantastic,
Thank you.
Always.
Thank you. Thank you for all for putting up with the tech ick. What happens?
I'm so glad that you bravely forged ahead with the technical difficulties that we were experiencing.
Yeah, we're here.